Welcome to the Sideline. I'm Andy Katz. Well, this is going to be a home for a lot of original content in college sports and beyond. Now, of course, you're going to get a lot of that similar content that I produce for NCAA platforms, Big Ten Network, and other places. But I needed a home for a lot of those interviews with the newsmakers in this space. So where are you going to find it? Right here at the Sideline. Let's get to it. And welcome, everyone, to another off-season chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Chris Beard from Ole Miss. And Chris, you've now had a couple summers under your belt to really sort of establish this program, getting to the tournament. Let's give a little sort of reset of where you feel you are in Oxford, grounded with this place.
Yeah, we're all in. I think the first year was about laying the foundation. I thought we had a really good 20-win season. Probably missed the tournament by a game or two, but we'll always have great appreciation for those guys. Last year's team, arguably one of, if not the best team in program history here. I think what was interesting too, the SEC, really, really good league last year. Obviously, maybe, one of the best leagues in the history of college basketball. So we made our move in that conference, which I think speaks even higher of the players. But no, looking for the momentum of year three. The only time we've ever stayed at a program, the third year as a head coach, we played on Monday night. And so pretty high expectations and footsteps to follow there, but we don't shy away from that. I think we'll be more than competitive if things go our way. I think I could be sitting here talking to you on Zoom next March.
Well, that'd be great. I was thinking about this as I was thinking before we're going to talk. We've talked so many different times in different locations, and for various reasons you've moved around, and it just feels like at this point in your life, this is the right place at the right time. This is me from the outside. Why is that maybe true for you?
No, I think there's definitely some truth in that. I'm very comfortable here. It starts with the leadership. Chancellor Boyce, former coach himself, Keith Carter, to my knowledge, the only kind of basketball former player AD in the country, especially as good as Keith was. I think we do our best work as a coaching staff, places where our players really enjoy living, college towns, but also places that don't have a lot of distractions. So Oxford's a special place. Our guys really enjoy being here, but it can be all basketball too. We're able to kind of get into workman's mode. Not a lot of distractions here, but again, a really good place to be as well.
You've always done a great job of sort of the roster build. We're in this new era where you really have to think about it almost yearly. And I think back to your career, it was the CBA, right, at the time?
ABA.
ABA, thank you. So you've dealt with this world, where people are coming and going. How much had that helped you when you think back to that past to this current landscape we're in?
Yeah, I think for sure. Like back in junior college and even some in Division II, we would even add a new player each semester. So imagine coming back for Christmas break and having a new player, 4 or 5 practices, and then you go. So in junior college, our rosters changed from year to year. So I think thinking back, like, for example, Texas Tech, taking advantage of the grad transfer rule with Tariq and Matt that year. So I think what's uncertain for many in college basketball, we have a little comfort zone and past experience being uncomfortable. So I think, in some small way, I think maybe that's helping us a little bit with our build here. It's not just me either. The other coaches on staff here also have a lot of experience with roster turnover.
So what were you looking at this year? Because you did a great job last year of plugging holes in terms of sort of resetting this roster. What were you looking for?
Yeah, to us, it's always kind of the 3 categories. It's the returners, our freshman recruiting, which is obviously the bloodline of the program, and then portal recruiting, the immediate needs of today's reality in college basketball. So our third team here at Ole Miss, it's kind of I don't know. I was looking at it the other day. It's like a 4-2, 6 or 8 model. We've got 4 returners, highlighted by Dia and Klafke, that were in the rotation and played major roles in last year's Sweet 16 team. But we also had a couple guys sitting out last year as red shirts that we think could really help us with Max and Zach. High school recruiting was good to us. I give our staff a lot of credit. A nationally ranked class with Patton coming in here with Tyler and Nico. So those three freshmen, there's an opportunity for them early in their careers. Then certainly, I think it was 8 transfers that we added this spring, all the way up into this summer. I think those three categories, the returners, the young guys on our roster, and the experienced players, will be the makeup of our Ole Miss team this season.
One of those is AJ Storr. He's bounced around a lot, and he's had some success in different spots. Obviously, maybe the best was obviously at Wisconsin, which was 2 stops ago, coming now from Kansas. Why is this maybe the right spot for him to sort of, maybe finish with a bang? We'll see.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for AJ, but he's been asked that a couple times this summer, and I'm sure we'll be asked it again in the fall. But from my perspective, I believe in AJ. Period. I think his story, when read an article without any explanation, can kind of be misleading. But roughly, one of his high school transfers was because of COVID.
Yep.
Another high school transfer was when the program actually shut down. Then his senior year in high school, AJ had a chance to go to a national name high school, which most kids do. In high school, as you remember, Andy, gets hooked up with Mike at St. John's, has a really good start of his career. Then there's a coaching change.
Yep.
I certainly think his success at Wisconsin was the one that brought a lot of attention. I mean, it's hard to tell somebody not to transfer to Kansas when Bill Self is courting you. So I would argue he's had success all along the way, but he set the bar pretty high for himself at Wisconsin. But even on last year's Kansas team that made the NCAA tournament, where he played good per minute played. So I think it's a reset for AJ. That's not a secret. Everybody knows that. We embrace that. But I believe in him. I think he's a character guy. I think he's got a lot of talent. And most important to me right now in this moment, different than when we recruited AJ in the past, I believe he has a chip on his shoulder. I think he has the ability in the stage here to set his own narrative and finish the final chapters of his college career. And I'm confident he'll do so.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I felt like he was the kind of player that needed the ball in his hands. It might have been better when he was the guy. And at Kansas, it's hard to do that because there's so much talent and maybe got a little lost. I mean, how featured will he be for you?
Yeah, high expectations. We've got 3 or 4 players that we kind of determine as our best players in terms of experience and things that they'll have to do on game night. And AJ is definitely in that category. I got a lot of confidence in him. My confidence in him comes from the work he puts in. He's had a really good summer in Oxford. We're in our 8th week this week of the 8 weeks allowed. And we started this thing kind of with a week 0 when we didn't have any organized practices. So he's been in town 9 weeks this summer. He's maximized it each day. But no, that's no secret. We're going to need AJ to have his best season in college basketball, his career, for us to do the things we want to do. And I know that's a strong statement because he's had some special years.
Look, time always heals when coaches leave. And I know it was a little rough when you were at Texas, going back to Texas Tech, but I appreciated when Grant McCaslin and I talked a couple weeks ago, and he was adamant at sort of praising you and the job you did to sort of raise the bar, obviously, at Texas Tech, getting to that final game and chance to win a national championship. When you look back, how proud are you of what you guys accomplished in Lubbock?
Yeah, I don't look back a lot, but I have had some conversations with Grant, and I really appreciate his approach to things. And it's not just him following us at Texas Tech. Grant gets it. He's one of those guys that understands that the road was paved before, just like we do here. Certainly with Kermit Davis and Andy Kennedy and Rod Barnes and Coach Evans and Bob Wetlick. Like, I think Grant's one of those guys that gets it, and I really appreciate the things he says about our time. More important about our players, and he's really embraced our past players there, and so nobody pulls for that program from afar more than we do here. But I think our time in Lubbock was well documented. I mean, people forget I was there for 10 years as an assistant with Coach Knight and Pat. 2 of my 3 daughters were born there. And so, time has a way of kind of telling the true story. a lot of emotion in sports, and we all understand that it's intense. But I think as time goes on, our time, not my, our time, our players, our staff, our time at Texas Tech, I think will stand the time. And I do take a lot of pride in that program being continued, and I think that our players had a big part of that.
Well, and he saw it all obviously when he was an assistant, at Baylor, and so I mean, he's got firsthand knowledge of how good you guys were and the culture that you built there. Um, the SEC, you mentioned it last year, unprecedented, historic, 14 in. I don't know if it'll be 14, but I don't expect it to be any kind of major dip. What you were in an unbelievable gauntlet in the Big 12 when it was a true round robin. But what was last year like, game in and game out, dealing with that in the SEC?
I mean, it was as good as advertised. I think the hype kind of started this time last summer, in my opinion, because of the returning players in the league. Guys like Sears and Broom, national candidates, Walter Clayton, guys like that we all understood maybe a little bit before you guys how good he was. And then I think in the non-conference, you think back of all the success, Ole Miss included. We did our part, kind of highlighted with the was it the SEC, ACC challenge, and what we all did in MTEs nationally. I know we were in a great MT last year, beat a really good BYU team that proved to be one of the top teams in college basketball. So here we go again this year. I think the hype is real, but it's just hype until we get on the court. But I think the returning players, the recruiting in the league, the coaching staying in the league. A lot of staffs had a lot of continuity, ours included. We basically returned our whole coaching staff back. But we'll see. I think it's fun to talk about. But I thought what was special last year is we as a group, the SEC, we kept validating it, in the non-conference and then ultimately in the NCAA tournament. Two teams making the Final Four and Florida cutting the nets. And again, I think we did our part too. Pretty proud of our Sweet 16 run last year. Really a one possession game against Michigan State, kept us away from the Elite Eight.
You know, I'm curious, how did you handle, because every coach in a league like that, and I think it's the SEC, Big 12, and Big 10, you're probably going to go on a little bit of a skid, 2 games, 3 games, maybe 4, almost kind of like the NBA, but you can't get bogged down in that. And it seemed like every team sort of went like, rode that roller coaster a little because it just keeps coming at you. How did you manage that as a highly competitive coach, knowing that, okay, we may lose a couple here, but we're going to be all right in the big picture?
Yeah, I certainly had a little bit of experience, my 5 years in the Big 12 as a head coach. Those are some gauntlet years there. If you think back, it was Bill Self and Lon Kruger and Scott Drew and Bob Huggins, and I can just keep going down the line. Rick Barnes, still have some nightmares about those times at time, but I do think our coaching staff had a lot of experience coming in. We understood what we were getting into with the SEC. I think one thing reminding the guys, in our program, this isn't self-promotion or arrogance, but we don't lose. I try to explain to the guys, we're going to try to win the game on the scoreboard or from time to time because the other guy's trying to win too. We might run out of time. But to me, there's a difference between losing a game and running out of time. And I think what's really important in gauntlets like the SEC last year, and we're anticipating this year will be no different, is just trying to stay the course. Some weeks we talk about, hey, we have 80 minutes of basketball instead of the traditional coaching line of 40 minutes. Just trying to get the guys to understand, as much as we would all like to win every game on the scoreboard, I don't think that's done since 1976. And I had a relationship with the man who did that. I think, you just stay the course. 2 game winning streak. I mean, donors are coming by the office bringing free donuts and kolaches in the mornings. You drop a couple in a row, and it's like, get a parking ticket on the square when you normally don't get it. So, but that's life. Coach Knight would always say, Prince today, frog tomorrow. He had another one. He said, peacock today, feather duster tomorrow. And nobody knew what a feather duster was. So went to the World Wide Web on my smartphone and found out that a feather duster was one of those deals you dust the house with. But no, the point is you can't get too high or too low. You got to stay the course. The goal is to be playing your best basketball when it matters most, February leading into March. And so that'll be our continued focus again this year.
Chris, what I think you've done a great job in your past stops is connecting with the students. And, as I'm seeing around the country, because of rev share and all the things going on, student fees are going to go up, and they already have in some places. And so I think it's really critical for the coaches, the players, to sort of have that connection, that it's not like everyone in their ivory tower over here in the athletics and the students over here. And yet, hey, students, we need you to pay for these guys over here. There needs to be that connection. You did that before. How critical is it to continue to do that now?
Yeah, it's 1A on the list. There's so many things that are really, really important. Obviously, recruiting and our players, and but our relationship with our student body. There's nothing more important to us. We didn't just start this at Ole Miss, as you know. We've studied this over many years, and I believe there's an undeniable relationship in college basketball between success, winning, championship runs, continuity, consistency, and home court advantage. Show me a team in college basketball that sells out home games, that has student attendance, standing room only, then I'll show you a winner. And so this is something we've strived to do over many years at different jobs, and we're off to a great start in Oxford, probably a little bit ahead of schedule with all things considered. We're selling out games on a consistent basis. Last year, our student section here is awesome. Students showing up early last year, camping out before the games. And so it's a relationship that's important to us. It's a relationship we work on 12 months a year, not just handing out the posters 2 weeks before the opener. So we've enjoyed a lot of really cool times this summer on campus. Summer, as you know, is always kind of a quieter time on a college campus with less volume, but it gives us a chance to get out and make quality relationships. So school starts here, I think, the last Monday in August. So we're already starting to gear up to it. But no, our relationship with students, there's nothing more important because we're trying to create one of the best home court advantages here at Ole Miss. We're off to a good start, but it's a priority for us.
All right, a couple of rapid fire things. Schedule non-conference. You mentioned last year, great MTE. What do we got on tap?
Yeah, continuing to upgrade it. A shot at Iowa early, home games, Miami and Memphis, going on the road to play Will and those guys at NC State. Of course, we benefit every year and be in the SEC ACC challenge, but yeah, just continuing to elevate that. It's something we work on all the time. In my opinion, it's one of the things probably talked about less in college basketball nationally. Like everybody kind of gets credit for playing one of those major schedules, but I think what most people don't understand is there's a lot of teams like us out here that'll play anyone, anytime, anywhere. But scheduling continues to be kind of a challenge for some. I think we're probably just good enough where some people don't want to play us. And I think we're striving towards getting to that national stage. Our schedule this year will be highlighted with Coach Pitino playing us in Madison Square Garden. I think it's the first Saturday in December. Those are the games that we want. Those are the games we're trying to find. And if anybody listening to the podcast today that might have an opener, just call us. We'll play anyone that will play us anywhere, anytime.
Still looking for this year or 26?
Always looking, Andy. Never say
Okay.
never. It's kind of recruiting. The young coach might say, "Hey, we're done with our roster," and those of us that have been doing this long enough, well, we're never completely done. So in schedule, we've been able to pick up some cool things last minute before, so we always give ourselves a chance. Going into September, if an opportunity arose, we would be ready for it.
All right. So you at least have one open. Quarters or halves. It's not changing this year, but what do you want to see?
Yeah, I think I've thought about this one a little bit. I think definitely quarters. Uh, One, kind of the continuity of the game. I think men's college basketball, to my knowledge, is the only
Yep.
basketball globally, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. I think advancing the ball, could create more excitement. Now, from a coaching standpoint, you say, well, you played well enough to win the game. 39 minutes and 55 seconds have gone down. Or are you going to give that team an opportunity? But, in my mind, I watch a lot of NBA basketball. I think that is better for the fans, the excitement of advancing the ball late. I also think from a defensive standpoint, with the bonus starting over in the fourth quarter, there's a lot of things that programs like us that spend our majority of our time on defense could do. So if asked, which I'm not going to get asked, but if I was, I would say four quarters.
Coach's Challenge. What do you think? That is happening this year.
Yeah, that's one I think we're all going to have to get used to. I've spent a little bit of time studying it in the fall. The SEC officials coordinator will come out and spend time, and I know our staff has some real specific questions, but I think just off the top of my head, I would say that the coaching thought in this is, I think probably better to save it for the last minutes of a close game. I wouldn't want to be one of those coaches that, 3 minutes left in the game, something that you could do to help your team, but you don't have it. But on the other hand, I think it's my understanding if you're right on the first challenge, you get it back. So, it'll be interesting. I don't know, like guy steps out of bounds 30 seconds into the game and you're right. I think there'll be a lot of staff members around the country that have those iPads behind them. And when the head coach kind of turns around and gives you the quick 5-second look, for us, it's going to have to be this right here. It's not going to be right here. But no, I think it's going to add something new to the game. As long as we can figure out how to keep it on track where there's not a lot of delays, I think it could be good for college basketball.
All right, last thing, Chris. Over your right shoulder, I see a reindeer, I think an owl, and a mini Ted from the movie. Explain them, please.
Yeah, Ted's my favorite movie. A player gave me that years ago when I was at Angelo State. It used to be my pillow on the 12-hour bus rides home. I thought about maybe making it my pillow on these airplanes rides now, but I don't know if I want to walk through an airport with Ted. Then the reindeer there, that's Loyalty. He's been a part of our program for a long time. That reindeer was basically a gift in a roundabout way for my youngest daughter, Margot. But yeah, Loyalty and Ted have been a part of our programs for a long time.
Is that what's in the middle there? Is that an owl?
Well, we got two Teds. We got Mini Ted.
Oh,
Thomas Bransman gave me that as a birthday gift years ago, and then that's Main Ted. Okay. I'm not seeing an owl, man. Am I losing it?
No, maybe I can't see. There are two Teds.
I tell you what, there's a lot of stuff on that table. I'll tell you that.
Okay, last thing. Who has had the most appearances on the Fireside Chat?
It's a good one.
I have to be in the top 10.
Yeah, I think because you've been in a couple because we did the satellite ones during NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
so,
there were Zoom, there were COVID Fireside Chats, and then I was with you guys almost the whole way during the NCAA tournament. So multiple that stretch. In fact, in locker rooms, we did them.
Yeah, no, I confidently say this. You can put my name on it. It's you. We've always tried to have a one guest, cycle. It's kind of like when I was a kid, watching David Letterman. It was cool, like, when, Ozzy Osbourne or Michael Jordan came on. But, a year later, if they're back on the same show, what's he going to talk about today? So we've had some requests for repeat guests. But to my knowledge, I think you're the only guy that's been on more than once.
All right. Well, then I want to get down and be on in Oxford.
Open invitation. Come on.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
All right, Andy. Have a good summer. Rest of the summer.
All right. You too. Thanks for watching and listening, everyone. And as always, you can follow all our social media content at the Sideline with AK. Our content appears on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram. Check out all the content at the Sideline with AK.